Rain every day this week, and he probably got it up to 1/10 of an inch.
Now it's supposed to be 85 Thursday.
Yesterday, when we got hammered at the cemetery,
Son,
Bob says, he didn't get anything in his ranch in town here. We got hammered. How did it escape you? Are you like so much hot air that it creates a bubble or something?
I don't know.
He's his own vortex.
Yeah.
It goes around.
We're scrambling to get flakes down, and you're out there like a lawn chair with a Mai Tai enjoying the sunny weather.
It's pretty sunny, but it's
The Mai Tai.
just sprinkling, wet the hood you pick up.
Nice late spring rain week and a half.
It's horrible for my business.
Sorry,
We don't care.
need it.
I think 2 inches.
I can see there's a lot of empathy for Tom's business.
Which one?
I was driving up my grill under my hay. I'm going to pick up hay. It was just smoking.
You pumped it out of the ground to fill that up?
Yeah. I had that once years ago. It's up my 2.5 inches in half.
Yes.
It all comes down directions.
So bad.
You had to cut back up. When you ran down, go off and cut back up. Yeah.
I think it's supposed to hit again
It
today.
is.
Hail hitting the midnight barn and house across the field.
Go forever.
You could hear it.
Wet under
When
the
it came
rest.
home, I was
That was like 2 o'clock or something.
4:30.
We didn't get that.
What do we do?
Maybe we didn't stop.
Man,
There you go.
The town got his, I'm thinking it was just after lunch. No, it was before lunch. I could feel it get black one time. It didn't last very
3 o'clock, no,
long.
that's good.
Dark over.
But see, I went out in the valley, and then one come down the mountain, and they met out over Janesville.
Well, like towards Turbo and heading up northeast like that. It was from where we were watching.
What is this from last
Yeah,
week?
there was oh yeah.
The others had a lot of rain. I got a vision from Grant Esfield out of Orlaw. From the crowd, and looked like it just flooded. I guess it's trying to start. We're going to meeting to order. We will public comment. Seeing none, not that item to be discussed in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board will meet in closed session for a conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision D2 of Government Code Section 54956.9. One case.
Good. Without, we'll go on to closed session. Pledge of allegiance,
Ready to begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, guide us today through our meeting that we make profound judgment in all issues before us. Grant us the foresight to know the outcomes so that no one will suffer from our decisions. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, not to violate the closed session.
Mr. Chairman, the board met in closed session for a conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to Government Code Section D2 of Subdivision D2, Government Code Section 54956.9. One case, there was no reportable action.
Good. We're going to go to agenda approval, additions, and or deletions. Anything from staff? Anything to take to the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would request the adjourn our meeting today in memory of Chet Walters. He served on our Fish and Game Commission for a good number of years. He passed away last week. And then Delaware Hawkins, also he passed away last night. He was Bill Long up there, one of the major employers. He's the one that started that.
Anybody else have any changes? We got additions, regressions. Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda with those added. Second.
Second.
Motion to second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Okay, we will move on to public comment. I have Mr. Kiefer. Let's do with you first. That's been a long day.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Roy Kiefer for the record.
Good to see you.
I'm here today representing the Lassen County Fire Safety Council, which I chair. As you know, there's a new round of Title III funds coming up that the board will be dealing with. And we have a request that we've put together. It's in draft form right now. And my reason for being here today was to let you know that we will be appearing before the board with that request. And what we would like to do is meet with staff prior to doing that, to go over that draft request to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and it's in the format and contains all the information that the board would want. We'd also like to have a couple board members attend if they could. And so it's really, I would really like to be able to work with staff to set that meeting up and go over the information that we have at this point in time.
Sound good, you can get together
Which,
with Tony,
we've tentatively got a date on Friday, this Friday, to meet with Mr. Kiefer, and I would recommend maybe Supervisor Chapman and another involved in that process. That probably be helpful, because we had some issues regarding the transparency of the Fire Safety Council. I think we should address.
I've had one conversation with Mr. Kiefer here recently, and we talked about the issues of the past and the lack of transparency and stuff, and I'm pretty confident that under his leadership, some of those concerns are a thing of the past. But I'd be more than happy to sit in and maybe Jeff might want to.
That'd be great if a couple of you could. So
I think it's 9 or 9:30.
We can be fairly flexible to accommodate schedules. So
Paul, let me know when, and we'll do that.
we'll shoot for 9 o'clock on Friday if that works for everybody.
Yeah.
Jared?
Yeah, being I was Fire Safe Council and whatnot, and I was reading the minutes, maybe I was mistaken, but I just want clarification. I talked about last week about the $160,000 grant that Little Valley got in conjunction with the Fire Safe Council to do some more cleanup, and that was through PG&E, not the Forest Service, right?
Yeah, there was a grant through PG&E in Little Valley, and that's the most recent one that they are working on now. And it's in and around the Little Valley area on the lines that come into Little Valley. And there is a public safety issue involved with those to some degree, not totally, but having extra clearance along those lines could prevent lines from going out should a fire occur, and will offer some fuel reduction opportunities to the community also. So that was a grant that it was just, we just received within the last month. And PG&E has been a real big contributor to those kinds of projects. In fact, in Clear last fall, we had a very sizable grant there to do some work, and also in Little Valley area. Yeah, it comes straight from PG&E, and it's been really helpful to the program. And it ties in with some of the other work that we've been doing in and around the communities also. So it just provides a greater degree of safety to the community.
Good. Thank you, Lloyd.
Does that answer your question?
It does, very much.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lloyd. Good to see you again. Okay, next will be our number one sheriff, Mr. Grouden.
All right, good morning, Supervisors, Madam Clerk, Dean Grouden, Sheriff Coroner. Well, I just wanted to mention the open house we have tomorrow night. We're going to be opening up at 4:30. We'll stay up until around 7, giving tours of the Sheriff's Office, the 911 Center, the jail. It's just a good opportunity for people to come and 4:30 to 7. Yes, 4:30 to 7. Somewhere around 6:30, I'm just going to host some, like a public session or a meeting, answer questions anyone might have, give an update on the Sheriff's Office operations. We're also going to do a demonstration with a K-9, a lot of search and rescue, boating, other programs there too for people to see. So just encourage you and the public to attend. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Anybody else wish to speak? Seeing none, folks, come on up to the podium.
Oh, I just was going, Carol Byers. I was just going to say, I went last year and it was really nice. It was very informative. You should go.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nobody else, we'll move on to reports by board members. Tom? Reports by board members.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't listening to it. Last week sorry about that.
$20 a day.
Last week, or was it the week before, I donated $500 to the DARE program in Furlong. Well, I've since discovered that that $500 will go directly to the Los Angeles DARE program, and I don't think that it would be distributed fairly to our community. So I don't know. Do I withdraw that?
Well, since it was done by board action, I'll just bring back an item on the consent calendar next week to revoke that action.
And the money's not been distributed, correct?
No, I got the check here.
Okay, very good. I said next week, next meeting. We don't have a meeting next week.
Okay.
We'll just put it on the consent.
And then also, we're going to have the June 3rd Doyle meeting. I'd like to get some kind of, at the senior center at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the 10th in Hermel, have town hall. At the One Stop.
Okay.
That's
Any
it.
more?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, good.
Short and sweet.
Don't have nothing. It's good, my long. Okay. Mr. Chapman.
A couple things, Mr. Chairman. Here recently I received a phone call and a visit from Aaron Dixon, who's the vice chairman, or he's the business manager, I guess, up at the Rancheria. And he wanted to know if we knew about the article that was in the Reno Gazette Journal. And its pipeline would provide water. $17.8 million project would serve North Valley homes. And basically, it's revitalizing of the Fiddler Water Company in 2000, where they had obtained some water rights out of Honey Lake Basin. So there's already been a water permit granted. But I was kind of totally unaware of it, had not heard from anybody commenting about it until he brought this up. So I was going to pass this, if we could, over to Richard. Maybe he could have staff look into it and ascertain that it's not something that's an expansion of what we already knew in terms of rights, but because of the water shortage and the fact that the amount of water coming out of Tahoe into the Truckee River that eventually goes to the Pyramid Lake and how that's utilized, they basically have been shut off, I think, from their normal use of Truckee River water, so they have to come up with alternative locations. And this has been sitting dormant now for about 12 or 15 years, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, it's come to life. And if they take 17,000 acre feet now, and they decide to take 25,000 acre feet tomorrow, then we start seeing some significant impacts on Lassen County. So I thought that was very astute for Mr. Dixon to zero in on that. I appreciated him bringing it forward. Also, on our agenda today, we have a couple Eagle Scout recognitions, and I placed those on there initially, starting off with one, and the invitation, which is a copy is in the packet as well, is Saturday, June 6th at 1 p.m., which will be Saturday after next, before our next board meeting. After I received that one and got the ball in works, we got a second one came in from Austin Dirksen. And it's interesting, his Eagle Court of Honor is going to be on Saturday, June 6th at 1 p.m. These are two different troops, two different bodies having two different Eagle Court of Honors at the same time. And unfortunately, I can't be in both places. The ones I like to go to these, they're really good to go to. And so I was going to ask if there was another board member, I need to kind of RSVP and let them know. And it's just a matter of attending, and at some point in time, they call you up and you present the certificate of recognition from the board, which has been passed around to be signed. So I don't know if anybody's available. One of them is going to be held at the Mormon Church out here in Richmond Room, and the other one's at the Honey Lake Grange. And so if somebody's willing to take one, I'd be happy to take the other.
When is it?
It's a week from this coming Saturday at 1 o'clock.
I have to check my calendar.
Yeah.
At 1 o'clock in the
1
afternoon.
o'clock, yeah. It probably be tied up there 1 to 2, maybe 2:30. Usually go an hour and a half long. So if you've never been to one, it's actually it's kind of the highest thing within Boy Scouts. So anyway, I'll coordinate with you. Maybe we can work it out where you take one, but it's something that we're going to do. The other thing I just wanted to just comment, yesterday was Memorial Day, and I was really was pleased that Tom was able to make all three of them. I generally attend the first one they have at 8 o'clock up at the old cemetery. And it's a very nice ceremony put on by the American Legion. Not very long. Do the 21 gun salute perhaps and have some words said. The big program takes place at Diamond Crest usually from 11 to 12. And they didn't put out the avenues of light because of the threat of potential for rain. And it was a good thing because not even 5 minutes after the ceremony was over with and people were working their way back to their cars, it just came down, which we need the rain, but the flags don't do well in the rain. And so anyway, it was very well attended. Brian Dolly came up and he actually attended all three of them. He just decided to hang out. He travels to different counties for these ceremonies, and so he decided to stay close to home this time. It was nice to see Brian. And he was also spoke at the college graduation Friday night, so he's been busy down here taking care of his home folks. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Speaking of Brian Dolly, we'll be seeing him on Thursday, because I'm going on the 8th grade trip as a chaperone because my youngest boy, we're doing an 8th grade trip, and one of our deals is to meet up with Brian down at the Capitol, the state Capitol, so I'll be attending that this next week. The other thing, it kind of comes up from time to time again, and I'd like to see this item agendized, and that's to have county council, give him an opportunity to explain the role of what county council does for the board and for the county. Because it seems like there's always questions from the public a lot of times, and there's been some discussion here as of lately with what's been happening down in Herlong and in that district, and so I think it would just be appropriate if we had it agendized for the county council just to say what his role is to the supervisors and the board and the county as a whole.
Statement.
So I would like to have that opportunity for the county council, because I think the past county council, it was kind of the same thing with her that we experienced. And there's kind of did some things, I've heard some things said about her that I don't think are necessarily true, and some of the roles that she played. So anyway, I would just like to have some of that clarified by me.
Is there a particular issue you'd like for me to address?
No, I think that just your role. I think it's a good definition of your role and what you do.
Yeah, I agree.
Who you represent.
There is a lot of misconception about what the county council's job is. A lot of people think it's the council of the public, that you're the board's lawyer. And there is a lot of confusion there, so it might be a good idea to clarify it.
I was trying to keep it vague, but
Happy to, as supervisor.
I just thought that on the pipeline there, Jim brought up, I want to make sure everybody understands the permit they got was not from Lassen County or the state of California, it was the state of Nevada. And this was back in the year 2000, they started building that. Fish Springs Ranch is in Nevada, not Lassen County.
Well, we have a vested interest because of the shared water basin.
Shared water basin.
We participated in those, they got the permit in 2000. We started fighting over that back in the early mid-90s.
So I fought very heavily as a member of the Farm Bureau and Cattleman back before I was a supervisor on that. But once the pipeline was built, the downturn in the economy, they never used it to my knowledge.
Well, based on the hearings that was held by the Nevada water engineer, they calculated how much water's in the basin and how much of it was on the Nevada side or was shared by Nevada and how much was California. And 17,000, I think it was 17,000 acre feet is what was determined as being their share without depleting or impacting California. And that was what the basis of the permit is. Now, it's a matter of conjecture. I mean, and I think the concerns that anybody has is when you have a straw in the swimming pool, that it doesn't take much, especially during the time when we have the water shortages that we have now, that if they decide to grab more than 17,000 acre feet, they have to have meters on their well, so it's not like they can just take it and we don't know. They have to measure their output, but I think it could lead to a bigger and a worse fight than we had before.
Well, it could be harmful to the community down in the Furlong area, the farmers and ranchers down there that are pumping water.
And the base itself.
And the base, but for them to get a pump more than that, you'd have to get another permit from the state of Nevada engineers. and I've heard some of the people in Nevada that I know have said that they're being cut. Everything in Nevada is metered. You gotta get a permit for the well, and they got meters on it. And some of them in certain areas are being asked to cut what they are pumping. I would really doubt to see an increase, but just what they got is a lot of water. But there is a plume of bad water in the Furlong area. It's not too hard to expect it to move that way.
Well, that's kind of what they call it.
Yeah, so it may not, it may shut them down before they get going. Anyhow.
Molasses. Richard, we have that Long Valley groundwater
Yeah.
board in there. We've talked about getting that active. Is
Yeah,
there time to do that?
again,
We meet once a year, I'm on the board.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and again, this is groundwater that's being pumped from Nevada to Nevada, so or as far as jurisdiction.
I understand that, but
Yeah, and everybody needs to understand, we can do nothing about what they do in Nevada. I mean, this is Nevada groundwater being pumped out of Nevada, permit from Nevada. Lassen County has an exportation law, and you can't export out unless you meet certain criteria.
But that's where that studies were important, is anything beyond the 17,000 acre feet is now in the realm of having water basically transferred from California to Nevada. And that's where we do have standing and have the ability to maybe
We have to file
have a
suit.
fight, yeah.
You have to file
It-
suit.
it- well, it'd be a lawsuit, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and let me, if I may, take this up with the folks at Building and Planning who've been looking into the groundwater issue.
I guess we'll,
And agendize it
Maybe
for
we
future
could-
meeting.
yeah,
we're getting involved,
This
yeah.
particular, thank you.
Well, that was what I was hoping with Mr. Egan with that article, maybe we could look into it and report back and we could have an agenda item for proper discussion.
It's something we need to watch, but I don't think we can do much about it. Anyhow, anything else from anybody? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, council. Let's move on to, G, consent. Calendar.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, may I ask that G8 be pulled from the consent agenda and dealt with separately?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Anybody else, Mrs. Spencer?
G1, please.
G1. Anybody else have any agenda items on the consent calendar that wish to separate items? Seeing none, I have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 1 and 8.
so moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. We'll take up G1, Mr. Spencer.
G1.
Say your name, please.
Eileen Spencer, CandyHealth.com.
Thank you.
The Lassen County Public Improvement Corporation. It's an interesting concept since not one of you, Mr. Pyle, Mr. Egan, and Mr.
Burns.
Thank you.
I know you have another name for me, but that's it today.
You're not cute, trust me. They didn't include on their 700 forms that they were on the directors. They were directors of this corporation. The assessor, I don't know if Dan's here. Yes, I'm here. Dan was told last week that he was a director of this corporation. It's, I think a little more disclosure, Bob, needs to be done on this. There is no record at the federal level of this corporation. I've asked for the EIN number from Mr. Egan. We'd like to see the articles of incorporation. We'd like to know a little bit about this before, there's nothing, this just came out of the blue. And I know Mr. Egan shows up on the 2008 minutes, but it doesn't look like this board has met for 7 years. We just need, before you start spending money on it and recognizing it as, you need to give the public a little bit of information and a little transparency on this corporation.
Well, I think we could give you a fast snapshot right now. I mean,
If you
I
like.
probably, it's not on my 700 form, I'm guessing, because
Nobody listed it.
well, because the chairman sits on it. whoever the chairman happens to be. So this year I'm chairman, so I have to list it, and I probably didn't, but go ahead, Mr. Higgins, if you give us a little.
Sure, a couple things. So the Lassen County Public Improvement Corporation's been in existence in one form or another since the construction of the county jail in 1989. In 89, and then in 1998, we refinanced that jail and other improvements. And that corporation met all during the financing. Now, once the financing was complete, the meetings lapsed. The corporation is in good standing with the Secretary of State. The officers and the directors of the corporation are by title. The chairman is the chairman. The CEO is the vice chairman. Other elected officials are directors by title. I don't believe, I'm open to other input on this, but I don't believe being a director of an affiliate corporation like this is a reportable interest on Form 700, but
It is.
I don't know where it would fall under because there's no ownership of the corporation. But anyway, there a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, the IRS began requiring certain forms to be filed for these types of corporations if there's activity. In the case of our corporation, the debt was paid off, I think, in, Nancy might correct me, 2007 or 8, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so there hasn't been any activity in the corporation from then until now. Now, with the new financing that we're going to be discussing later on today, in future years, there will be activity that will be reported to the IRS going forward. Was there another question there?
Yeah, a lot. These taxes and these fees and that you're wanting to have the people pay, there's no record from 2007 to the present day. There's no record of you bringing this to the board on an agenda item to be paid in the past. Now, we put in a public records request for that data, but I went back to 2003, and there's no record of this being on any agenda, and suddenly it appears, and you want people to trust you that this is a legitimate thing. There's just absolutely no transparency on this agenda item and this corporation until you produce something to show that it's still a legitimate corporation. I don't know how you can all sit there and use this when there's no record of this from 2007 back. I mean,
well, I guess that's like Richard said, we haven't used it since then.
okay, but you have to file 1120s, and there aren't any 1120s. So
I have to ask you, do I need to file this on my 700 form?
This was first brought up by Ms. Spencer, I believe. No, I think the short answer is no.
you do. So
So
he doesn't seem to understand.
I will take my legal advice from my county counsel.
Yeah, look what it got, Mr. Hammond.
No, we're not going to. Okay. Thank you very much. Eileen, Iona.
Eileen, go. You're two. Eileen, two.
Iona.
Oh,
Iona McCain.
Yes, thank you. Iona McCain here. You know, I do this every year for the two corporations that we have. One of the things in the Secretary of State is that you have a form that you have to file. And when you change directors, you have to notify them of changing directors, shareholders. If I don't do it, I get on a timely manner. It has to be filed, I think, sometime in April. I get penalized, and I almost did get penalized on one issue because I just forgot to do it. But and if you don't keep up with the directors, and if they change year after year, you have to file it as if it's ongoing every year. So I think it might be wise for the county to really look into it. I know I have to do it for both corporations.
Okay, staff to look into.
Just for the record, I'm not aware of any taxes that have ever been paid by this corporation. It's simply a pass-through corporation. There's never taxable income. So just for the record.
Well, it might be that, but if you want to operate a true, however, it might be different in that we're private and you might be a public entity. That might be a little difference. I'm not talking about tax. I'm just talking about a fee.
Right. There's an $800 annual fee that's
No, that's not it. You pay a fee regardless. It's not the $800 fee. It's the $25 fee that you get paid to the Secretary of State. I'll get you the form. I'll get you the form just like I did the other stuff.
Actually, Richard, we do. We do pay the Secretary of State, and we file with them, and we do file with the Corporation of the Officers, and Ione is correct, that's $25. And you have done that every year under the Treasurer's Office. And then we do the $800 a year to the State Franchise Tax Board.
Right.
And so it is my understanding that we are both current on both of those fees being paid through the Treasurer's Office.
But you still, when you change the directors' names,
annually.
and you have to report the change in addresses.
That's part of that
They
form.
made us change
You
for
filed
field box.
1120s?
But the names don't change, because the directors are the chairman.
They're identified by title.
I think the form, Nancy might correct me, it has the title, but annually we put them different names on.
Correct, and the only name that had changed over a long period of time was the chairman of the board.
Tony, do you want to add to this?
Yeah, I can help. Tony Shaw, Deputy County Administrative Officer. So it's a 501c3, C4 corporation, and the annual form that is prepared by the Treasurer's Office has who the responsible official is, and that changes every 2 years. The directors of the association are by title only in the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws, and so whoever is seated in those positions, whether it's the chairman of the board, or the CAO, or the sheriff, or the assessor, or the treasurer tax collector, or the auditor controller, it's by position, it's not by name. So if that helps.
Thank you, Tony. Any other questions on it? You have a motion with the pleasure of the board. Do you question? Do you guys comfortable with this? I am.
Yeah, I guess my one question would be, what would the $2,000 be for, Richard?
Well, the $2,000 would be for 2 years. There's an $800 fee, like Nancy said, with the franchise tax board, $25 with the state. Yeah, so we rounded it up to 2,000.
Any more questions by the board? If not, the chair would entertain a motion.
Well, before you do go for a motion, I would ask council maybe to check into the disclosure requirements just to make sure that we aren't out of compliance. And the disclosure would probably have to come in the form of assuming office in the case of the chair. We haven't seen a lot of changeover in our